All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Journey podcast. I am here with Trent Suzuki. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes. My name is Trent Suzuki. I am a elementary physical education teacher. I am a strength and conditioning coach. I am a basketball play-by-play broadcaster. I am a human resources director for Munchkin Labs. I do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I was actually very excited for this interview because of something you told me before. You mentioned, I think, in our interview for Munchkin Labs that you personally trained Kobe Bryant.
I was able to, yes. So here's the story. This is back in 2006. I trained a kid named Chase Budinger. He's from right around here in Carlsbad, California. He was a McDonald's All-American, 6'7", red-haired kid, pale skin. I mean, and had a 44-inch vertical. One of the top basketball players in the country. In fact, he and Kevin Durant were both the co-MVPs of the McDonald's All-American game that was down here in San Diego. I was the trainer for that game, and through that we were at a Nike Skills Academy that was at Mater Dei High School up in Orange County, and it was the Kobe Bryant Skills Academy. It was all through Nike, and so Chase was was in college by this time, so he was one of the top two guards in the country. So he was invited to this along with guys like Steph Curry and Wayne Ellington and Gerald Henderson, all guys that played in the NBA. And so we were all there. And then the high school kids that were there were guys like DeMar DeRozan, Klay Thompson, Kyle Lowry. These guys are all stars in the NBA right now.
So this is
So
basically the most elite of the elite.
correct. So they were the top college two guards in the country and the top high school two guards in the country. And obviously, Kobe's running this camp through Nike. So we're all there. And he was watching Chase do work on the court, and he said, "Hey, I would love to work out with Chase." So we set that up. We went to UC Irvine because we were up in Orange County, and I was able to do work with him both on the court and in the weight room, and it was pretty cool. He had his regular strength coach, it's a guy named Tim Grover, who was Michael Jordan's strength coach. Tim had to have back surgery, and so he had one of his replacement guys that was taking his place to work with Kobe. Well, his guy, his name was Priest. He got hurt. He was sick that day, so Kobe needed a guy. And since I was Chase's guy, and he loved Chase so much, he said, "Hey, why don't you come to my house? 4 a.m." And so I trained him at 4 a.m. We did 2 hours on the basketball court, 2 hours in the weight room, and it was awesome.
So what exactly is that like, training someone of that caliber? Because Kobe's an intense guy. All I've ever heard from him is,
Well, yeah. So here's the deal. When you work out with a guy like him, he is very meticulous. So you can't just go, I couldn't just show up and, say, okay, take these shots and blah, blah, blah. I had to study film. I had to see what his game is. I had to give him drills that would work on his game. So Kobe's one of those guys that, he would post up smaller guards. So, he liked doing stuff from the long post, from the short post. So we would do drills that would kind of help him do those type of things. Okay. So we would do big guard stuff. Also, he liked finishing moves around the basket. So I needed to make sure that I had a blue shield and I was like bumping him, and he could, invite contact and finish with contact, stuff along those lines. So it was very, you have to do your homework to work with a guy like that. You don't just pull some stuff out of a hat and say, "Yeah, here, do this." He's not going to have it. Same consequently in the weight room. I mean, I need to tell him, okay, because you play this style, this workout's going to be made towards, getting a little bit quicker first step, maybe be able to absorb content a little bit better, do some little extra shoulder work, little extra core work. So he needed to hear a plan on what you were going to do with him and for him. And there was no, he picked his people very, very carefully. I mean, I was very good friends with his security team. I mean, he had a 4-man security team that kind of flew with him everywhere. He had a helicopter. He would helicopter from Newport Beach to the Staples Center, and I mean, this is Kobe Bryant. He's one of the, to me, the second greatest player of all time behind a guy named Michael Jordan. So, and he had everything just the way he wanted. Everything was very meticulous. He wanted to work out at 4 a.m. because he was a very dedicated father, as you know. And so he wanted to be done by 8 a.m. because that's when his kids got up to eat breakfast and get ready for school. And he wanted to be a part of all that. So, he was an amazing person. Again, I didn't know him that great. I mean, I wasn't his regular trainer or anything, but just from the very limited time that I was able to speak to him and work with him the one time, it was a transcendent moment for someone like myself.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have to come back to the whole Michael Jordan topic because I've heard you have some run-ins with him as well. But with the whole Kobe Bryant thing, I mean, waking up at 4 a.m., he's trying to get his kids. I hear he does, what was it, 4 workouts a day. He did different like 2 to 3 hour sessions throughout the day and still tried to get back in time to have dinner with his kids, see them when they're waking up. He did it all. I mean, there's no denying that this man was, I mean, it's the Mamba mentality right there. There's undeniably superhuman aspects to his character at all times.
And he was just starting on embarking on really empowering female basketball players. His daughter Gianna, as we all know now, was she was very, very good. In fact, the kid that I trained was kind of dating her. They're seventh graders. And so it was he was just starting to make his mark. He was very good. He became very close with Sabrina Ionescu, who was played at Oregon, who's now in the WNBA. And his death hit her very, very hard. She was one of the top players in the country of the last couple of years. And so he was about to make a huge mark in the world of women's basketball, try to elevate them to the level of the men's game. And Kobe was a trailblazer. He was a trendsetter. He everything he did was to better people. He was a servant leader in a lot of ways. I mean, he was intense. I mean, look, the guy wanted to win, and if you weren't doing your job to help his team win, he was going to let you know. And it's just he was a great communicator. And again, from the very limited time that I probably spent 5 hours with him total, and 4 of those were in a workout, and the other hour was just around that camp. So, but I got a whole lot of out of that. And then again, the very limited time I spent around Michael Jordan and his intensity and his single-minded focus and devotion to uncover, leave no detail uncovered, and just the thoroughness and everything that they do. I mean, it's the reason why Michael Jordan's the GOAT, and Kobe was right there. He was the junior GOAT, I guess you would say. And the people of today's game, the younger people, or around your age, Michael Jordan, you've read the stories, you've watched the ESPN specials and The Last Dance and all these things, but you never really watched him play. Kobe was more your era. So the younger people love Kobe. Guys more my age were kind of MJ people, but the mentality is they're all very, very hard workers, and they left no stone unturned.
Yeah, and so with that, I say we could kind of move more towards MJ. Kind of, what would you say? I mean, you worked not crazy with both of them, but you worked with both of them. So what would you say kind of the key differences in their styles and their performances I mean, they both had success in major forms. I mean, Kobe had 5 championships, MJ had 6. But they had different styles. Like MJ was more of a, I mean, I don't know. Let's have you explain it. I'm not the expert on either of them.
Well, I mean, they're the 1 and 2 guards of all time. Shooting guards. Both 6'6", both wildly athletic, both intense competitors. Again, I never got I got to work at a Michael Jordan camp, so I was able to take a picture with him and speak with him for a very, very few minutes. Probably 6 minutes. But I always ask, whenever I have access to these type of players, I always ask certain questions, and those questions include what gave you the drive to have the work ethic that you do, and so certain things, like, because me as a performance enhancer, in the business of service for athletes, both in the weight room and on the court and whatnot. I'm trying to get their mindset into these younger kids. So I need to hear it from the horse's mouth. What drove you to that? And so MJ told me about, he got cut. We've all heard the stories. He got cut from the varsity team, his freshman year, and that disappointment, that hurt from that, he vowed that he was never going to get cut again due to those same reasons, which means he wasn't ready. Michael Jordan wasn't ready, so he never was not ready ever again. He a few years in the league, he saw he was getting bullied around, so he started hitting the weight room. That's where Tim Grover came in. And Tim Grover's one of the most lauded performance specialists in the world. He's written great books about competing, and again, there's the Mamba Mentality book that Kobe put out, and there was Grover's book where he talks about the 3 different types of people. There's cleaners and closers and stuff like that, and coolers, and how the mentality that goes behind them. And again, you have to, when you're a cleaner mentality, the Mamba mentality, those type of things are in parallel, where you're going to do whatever it takes so that you're ready, but that more importantly, that you can affect others on your team so that you can help them be ready. And most importantly, hold them accountable to being ready and doing their part to win basketball games in this case. I mean, Michael Jordan he dished off twice in all the 6 championship games to win a championship. And they were the 2 shooters that he deemed were better than him, right? He the first one was to John Paxson, who was a 3-point guy who nailed the 3 to win a championship. And the other one was to my good friend Steve Kerr, who's now the coach of the Golden State Warriors, who I trained all 3 of his kids. He's from down here in San Diego. He lives in Rancho Santa Fe, and I mean, we don't talk all the time anymore, but his kids are all grown. But he was the other guy that Michael Jordan passed to. So, and again, Michael Jordan's not passing the ball. I mean, it's Michael Jordan. He's not passing that ball unless he knows who he's passing to is going to knock that shot down, in money time. And so so not only do they know what they're capable of doing, they also know that when they draw the double or triple team, there's going to be people open all over the place. He's got to know and trust who he's going to pass that ball to win a championship. And it's these guys, they're not only aware of their own abilities, but they're acutely aware of their teammates' abilities as well.
Yeah, so someone like Steve Kerr, I've looked kind of into his story as well, and I feel in a way he has that kind of same mentality that someone like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant has, not to the extreme extent, but I've heard the stories of Steve Kerr staying hours after practice in the gym just hitting shots time and time again just to perfect that motion and get it all down. I mean, to no extent could we say he was as good and as intense as Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, but he had that and he was willing to put in the hours, put in the time to make it work. So that kind of mentality, I mean, it doesn't go to the extreme intent at all times, but still, I mean, I don't know how many championships Steve Kerr has, but it's definitely more than most NBA players have. So it clearly pays off. And as we see through kind of MJ and through Kobe, it's not something you could really just train somebody to have. Like, what's his name on the center on the Bulls? Why am I forgetting his name?
During the Jordan era?
Yeah.
So there was 3. There was Bill Cartwright.
I'm not sure why I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah, I mean, there was Luke Longley. There was Bill Wennington. There was I mean, Horace Grant was not a center, but he was on that team back then. Tony Kukoc. I mean, there was a lot of people that were on that team.
I'm not thinking of any of those guys. I'm kind of blanking.
Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman. That's who I'm thinking. So he
wasn't a center, but
not a center.
Yeah.
I know, but I was completely blanking. He had that attitude, but he didn't have the work ethic to go along with it. Like when he's in a game, he was as intense as anyone else. but then it just didn't translate. That's the kind of thing you can't.
Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Oh no, let me tell a story about Dennis Rodman.
All right, go for
So
it.
Dennis Rodman was so thorough, right? So he's the greatest rebounder I've ever seen, right? I've watched a lot of NBA basketball for a lot of years. Dennis Rodman was 6'8", 6'9", pretty good athlete. Not a great offensive player at all. He never even so when everyone else was out there taking, doing warm up layups and hitting shots and stuff, Rodman was in the stands. All right. He would have his notebook out, and in every NBA arena, he would watch, Michael Jordan shoot, Scottie Pippen shoot, Steve Kerr shoot, whoever was on his team. And he would watch, because every NBA rim bounces differently. Every backboard plays differently. So he would watch. And for that day, let's say, he'd focus on Michael and Scottie, and he would chart, let's say Michael took 10 shots from the top of the key. He would chart that day, okay, when he missed, the ball went to the right. Oh, all these shots, they're all going to the right today. Whereas maybe in Milwaukee, let's say they were in New York, maybe they're moving to the left that day. So he would chart for each player while everyone else is getting their shots up. He's watching where his players, how they're shooting that day. Okay. And then Michael moves to the corner. Where are his misses going? Well, he usually misses long. Michael Jordan didn't really ever miss short. So if you're on the corner on the right, if he's going to miss and it's a long miss, the ball's usually going to go go to the opposite side. So, and Rodman was always in the right place. It's because he studied his players, all right, had an extensive notebook of where these shots were going. And so while everyone else is boxing out under the basket, Rodman was running to the opposite corner, and lo and behold, the ball would go right into his hands. So he knew, because of that day, MJ was missing long. When he missed, he was just going to go to the other side, because physics say that the ball's either, if it's short, it's going to come back down toward Michael or bounce the opposite way to the opposite side. It's just the way physics works. So he would put that time in and knew he was never going to be asked to score. So why put shots up when he can chart how to become a better rebounder? Another thing with Dennis Rodman is his cardio was off the chain. If you're going to be running around like that, you have to have a insane cardiovascular system. So after every game, the guy would ride the bike. After an NBA game, he'd get on, if he was at home, he'd get on the stationary bike and kill himself for 30 minutes after playing an NBA level game where he played a lot of minutes, because he
Wasn't
wanted to
wasn't
work.
that
So
one of his coaches things that they made him do?
oh no, no one can make an NBA player work if they don't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Phil Jackson, who was the mind guru and stuff. I mean, if Dennis Rodman doesn't want to do something, Dennis Rodman, on the practice, he's got to be at practice. He has to show up for games. He has to make the flights and all that stuff. And he did it. And so, people look at the piercings and the bleached hair and all that stuff and think that he didn't do his job. But that guy didn't average 20 rebounds a game because he was, bleaching his hair and dating Madonna and stuff like that. I mean, the guy worked. He had a crazy work ethic, and we were talking about Steve Kerr. So Steve Kerr, I believe, has 8 championship rings. Okay, he has 3 with the Bulls with MJ. He has 2 on the Spurs with David Robinson and Tim Duncan. And he's got 3 as the coach of the Golden State Warriors. So again, these people with that work ethic, these people are winners. Okay, they don't win because they get lucky. They win because they're ready. And again, if there's any message that I can impart to your viewers today, is you've got to be ready. Opportunities will come. You have to be ready to capitalize on them when they get there. Okay, Steve Kerr, when he got hired as the coach of the Warriors, he had never coached any level of basketball outside of his son Nick's, travel ball. Never coached high school, never coached in college, certainly never coached in the NBA. Yet, the brilliant mind, the work ethic, the high basketball IQ, when he went in to interview with Joe Lacob and the ownership of the Warriors, he was ready. I mean, he had been an NBA GM with the Phoenix Suns, but he had never been a coach. Yet he goes in there, delivers this, awesome presentation on, the personnel. Right, he had to know that he had Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and all the Andre Iguodala. He had to know all these things and say, this is the offense I want to run. This is no, this is my coaching style. This is the culture I want to bring. And, and they took a chance on a guy who, had 5 championship rings and knew how to win, but had never coached, So it's like, I mean, the guy's a winner. I mean, Steve Nash has never coached at any level either, yet he's got the Brooklyn Nets on the verge of, going to the Eastern Conference Championship, never coached, but he's a 2-time, consecutive MVP, right? I mean, a guy that understands the game, point guard. I mean, Steve Nash could go anywhere on the court whenever he wanted. Double
Yeah,
team, triple team, he dribbled wherever he wanted. And so, these are guys that, they're successful. Sure, they're talented, and sure they have work ethic, but they're successful because they're thorough, they're prepared, and they leave no stone unturned. Okay, they're going to outwork people. You're right. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
yeah, and especially with the Brooklyn Nets, I'm kind of happy you brought that up because that's kind of a special case because they got 3 all-time superstars on the team right now. But I've been on teams where we have that kind of talent, and let me just say it's a lot harder to perform with that than people realize. That you think, oh, they have KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. How could they lose? No, it's much more difficult even with that to produce. But I feel like the Brooklyn Nets, like especially what did they get? 110 points total with the 3 of them in the last game. Like that's impressive to put that team together and I'll actually let them succeed in that way. I was really impressed with what I saw.
I mean, yeah, they're going to be the front runner just because they have all that offensive firepower. I'm not totally convinced. Again, I'm not an NBA expert analyst or anything, but I know the game pretty well. And, I mean, they can score. They can certainly score. But, and again, and if they win, it's going to be because they just outscore everybody. I mean, it's not like they're getting a bunch of defensive stops. I mean, they score 110 points with a 300, probably score 140 points in the game, but they probably gave up 120. So, defense wins championships. I'm not convinced. I mean, I don't even know how my Lakers are doing. I mean, they're playing the Suns right now. I'm kind of scared I'm kind of scared to look at the score, but
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that right now.
oh, that's good. Great. So yeah, so not saying a saying, but
Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, it's a rare situation when you can put 3, transcendent superstar players on the same team at one time. And, and I think their window is this year, because contracts are going to come up and they're not going to be able to play. I mean, you're paying those 3 probably close to $100 million just for the 3 of them. And the salary cap is 140. I mean, I don't know, 150. I don't know what the salary cap is, but they're not going to be able to keep them past a year or 2. So their window is now. If they don't win this year, I think their window might be closed already. So and again, I train a bunch of basketball players here in my gym, by my backyard gym, and they all they're young kids, and so they go, oh, Kyrie and KD, and how are they going to lose and stuff, and it's I have to snap them into reality. Sometimes it's not always about scoring, although I mean they have to be considered the front runners at this point just because of the firepower.
Yeah, well, basketball is kind of one of those interesting sports where like you can win 150 to 140. Hey, you
Yeah,
don't
I
have to
mean,
play
it's
defense if you outscore them.
no, no, it's true. I mean, I believe the Lakers won last year because of their defense primarily. I mean, sure, they had LeBron and Anthony Davis, but they defended, and that's how they won. I mean, it was a bubble year. It was kind of weird and stuff, but, I mean, I'm an LA guy. I mean, I trained Magic Johnson. So, and I worked with, people, with the Lakers and stuff. So I'm from LA, I'm a Dodger guy. I'm a Laker guy. We've won lately. I'm happy. So,
Yeah, the other thing, that was a pretty dominant looking Heat team last year. Like they were looking very strong. I was kind of scared for them, but we pulled through, and that's all that matters in the end. But yeah, let's move on kind of more to you then. So you mentioned your backyard training gym. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
sure. So yeah, I've been running a, call it Team Suzuki Strength, or Team Suzuki Sports Performance Training Systems. I've been working with athletes from every level, from middle school all the way up to professionals. My 30, geez, sorry, when I was 17. So, but I'm like 40 years into training people now. And so with the pandemic, I was at this one gym in Encinitas, down here in San Diego, for 31 years of my 40-year career was spent down here. And uh, they used the time, all the gyms shut down, so they used the time to remodel. So I was able to, they were just going to put all the equipment outside and cover it. So I said, hey, why don't you let me take it to the backyard over here, because that way I could still try to have some sort of income when everyone else was, going belly up. And my wife is still a little bit upset, but hey, got to pay the mortgage. And so yeah, so I have kids come here, between 15 and 40, on a daily basis. And again, we're working on all the pertinent aspects of performance training, strength, power, speed, agility, flexibility, all those things. So all the physical things. But there's basically 4 things that I think my program, Team Suzuki, is going to be sets us apart. Is so we're going to work on 4 things. We're going to work on physical strength, obviously. We're going to work on emotional strength, right? So the ability to emotionally deal with all these things, the pandemic and all the anxieties that people have. We do a lot of work with helping them kind of rectify those feelings. We work on mental strength. So again, I'm a big mental toughness guy, a big persevering through adversity and whatnot. And then the 4th thing is social strength. So if you have physical strength, emotional strength, so physical strength.
All right, we had a bit of technical difficulties there, but we're good to go now. So I don't know if you remember exactly where you left off, but if you want to keep going where you were talking.
Um, I don't remember
You
where
were
we were at.
talking about your home gym.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, strength is confidence, physical strength, emotional strength, mental strength, social strength. If you have all 4 of those things, you're going to be confident. We work on these on a daily basis through the different types of workouts we're doing. I'm real big on watching my athletes go play. I look at their body language. I look at how they're interacting with the people that are on the bench. I look at if the coach is talking to them, if they're making eye contact. So these are all these type of things that lead to a championship behavior. Is and again, I mean, you're an ex-athlete, you know how it is. I mean, you had teammates that were just in it for themselves. If they scored 5 goals but you lost by 6 goals, they were happy. Where there's other people where they're going to do whatever they can to help the team win, and that's all that matters. And so I'm interested in producing athletes that are all about the team, that want to make sure that they're doing their best to help their team win, whether that's from the bench, being hype men on the bench and high-fiving and yelling and screaming and pounding the floors, just yelling defense and stuff, to the people that are actually doing windmill dunks and dropping dimes to other players or whatever. In any sport, it doesn't matter. The person that delivers water is just as important as the person hitting the home run. It's all the same. You have to be willing to do what it takes. And so I'm interested in producing winners both on and off the court. So we're going to focus on academics. If you don't have at least a 3.0, you can't train here. And if you're getting, to us, the 3.0 is a low GPA. So you have to be working. I have certain tactics that we use to help people become better study habits. Everything from making sure the area is well lit where you're doing your homework, to making sure you're not being bothered, because distractions are the biggest thing that helps prevent people getting stuff done. So when I was growing up, I didn't own a cell phone until I was, I think, 34, which was like in the mid 90s. So you've had a cell phone probably since the 6th or 7th grade, probably, and
Earlier than
so
that.
your distractions are way greater at your age than they were when I was at your age. So our ability to focus, I'm your parents' age, most likely, if not older than them. So our ability to focus was a lot easier than kids from your era, because of the level of distractions are way greater now. I mean, there's there's all the different streaming services and Instagram and all this stuff. So there's all these distractions that get in the way of people succeeding. Um, so that's why it's, I'm trying to, I'm old school. I run an old school program where we focus on the cultural aspects of, winning team type of stuff. I do that in my PE classes at school with my elementary kids. It's the same thing. I mean, we have value systems. We talk about, we do hard things, right? I mean, kids these days, if it's hard, they don't want to do it anymore. I mean, we want to do hard things, because if it's hard, that means we have to get out of our comfort zone and we have to grow, because it's hard, right? We have to adjust, whether that's, running for a faster time, this is in the PE module, or, throwing the ball 5 feet further, or making a better pass, whatever it is, you have to be willing to do hard things. Our second one is, it's we, not me, right? There's no I in team. Team is all that's important. I don't care what you want. It's what we need to get done, right? We talk about, we make no excuses. Okay, everyone has an excuse. Oh, I didn't do this because of this. I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. Excuse. I'm not big on hearing those type of things. We tell the truth, right? How many people lie just on a regular basis? Liars lie about everything. And then the last one is, act like a champion, right? What do champions do? Champions follow the 7 C's, right? They're coachable, they're competitive, they're collaborative, they're communicative, right? These are all the things that we have in our Munchkin business. You read all those C's. I mean, I stole those right from my physical education program. It works with kids. It works in high level business. It works in high level the military. It works in sports. Right? These are just the championship attributes that help make people win the day. And then strength is confidence. Whenever I see any of my students or any of my athletes, I say strength is confidence. They fist bump me. They say the same thing. Strength is confidence. And it's a mentality that you want to have and take with you all the time. Be strong, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, physically. I mean, it's all the same. We want to be strong in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, so you kind of got a lot of set ways that you've seen to actually be proven that help kids be successful in whatever they're doing. So my question, I guess, is how did you come up with these? Like, was it just something you discovered over time that this was working, or is it right from the beginning that you realized this is how it's going to work? This is how they're going to win?
Right. Well, again, I'm an older teacher, right? I'm 57 years old. I'm not fresh out of college or anything. So I went back to school to become a teacher when I was 40. So it was something where, because I was running strength training, and back in 07, 08, we had a bit of a recession. And I was talking to my mom, who's a longtime teacher, and I'm like, business was starting to dry up a little bit. I was a little worried. And so she goes, well, you should, we were talking about my wife going to be a teacher. And I go, and then my mom goes, why don't you go be a teacher? I went, well, yeah, I mean, my gym business doesn't start till after school anyway. I train some people during the day, but why not, go get a pension and go get a retirement. And so I went back to school, became a physical education teacher, because I was volunteering that, doing with my kids anyway. And I got a job, and it's been great. And so these principles came about from my experiences training athletes and working with military personnel, doing hand-to-hand combat type of stuff, and just their rules and values and purposeful missions that lead to success. And since I'm in the elementary school, in a very Title I, low socioeconomic area, and a lot of these kids don't have a male role model. Their fathers are in prison, or they're dead, or they're still in Mexico, or whatever. And so I figured, I need to do more than just be a PE teacher. I'm not going to just roll the balls out. So everything we do is dependent on, every lesson has a value that we're working on. So whether it's kindness or integrity, or being generous with our time, every lesson, and I hide it in, we're teaching you how to throw and catch. But so, if you were a classroom teacher, and we shared students, and my students went back to your class, and you asked them, hey, what'd you do in PE today? And if they said, oh, we learned how to throw a ball, or we learned how to dribble a basketball, I have failed, because that's what we did. But I'm more focused on who you become as a student of mine doing the things we do. So there's a difference, right? It's not what we do, it's who we are, who we can become. I'm into transformative leadership, where if you follow a certain set of rules, you will be successful. Because when it gets hard, you're not going to quit. You know, when the team needs you to do something, you're not going to be selfish and say, "Well, I just score." You know, you're gonna, if they ask you to play defense, you got to go do that. You know, or it's like, or people that are late all the time, or people that are not being respectful of other people's titles and their time and whatnot. I mean, there's all these things that get people going down the wrong path. But again, if you focus on, having a program or a business or whatever, where you're worried about who people are and who they can become through what we do. Now, to me, that's a winning aspect. That's a venture worth undertaking, because you're investing in the youth who will be our leaders. When I'm dead and buried, they'll still be around, hopefully, eschewing the principles that we were able to teach them.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you brought this up, because this is something I can kind of directly relate to my history as a water polo player. So I grew up, and I've told you before, I've been trained by some incredible athletes and incredible people. And I had the greatest opportunity ever growing up as a water polo player. Some of my coaches have been ex national team players over in Serbia, and they had incredible. They were all amazing athletes, but even better that they just knew how to teach people to be good men. And I don't play water polo anymore, so I don't use any of the skills they directly taught me. But that's just one thing that I'm so thankful that I had those coaches, because I remember, especially, there was one time, I think it was on a Valentine's Day, and we had practice, and my coach was like, "Why are you all here? Why aren't you with a girl?" And then he gave us this whole lecture on how when we're going to grow up, and some of us are going to move on from water polo, some of us are going to stick with it, and we're going to have times where we're going to be doing school water polo, try to balance a girlfriend, try to balance our friends, and it's going to be hard, and we're going to want to give up. But I still remember this to this day. The one thing he said was that the true ballers will continue to work hard even in those times, and that's when they stick through it the most, because that's when it really matters. And just him saying that one thing, it's like nothing to me at that time, because I'm just trying to play water polo. But like, looking back, I think that was when I was 16, so almost 5 years ago now. Like, those are the lessons that really stick with people and really help people actually become good and better people. Because I mean, I like what you're saying right now. I don't even remember what I did in PE in elementary school. Like, none of my teachers had any impact on me back then. So what you're doing is especially important, for especially since you said that it's more of a not as socially good. There's kids' parents in prison, maybe not even alive anymore, maybe across the border. Like, those are the kids who need that the most, and to give that to them that young, like, this is something I got when I was 15, that I had to drive an hour a day to water polo practice to get. But giving them that so young, and it's so valuable. So that's just a great thing that you're doing for these kids.
I feel really good about it. I'm very, appreciative that I was able to kind of be cognizant of what's really important. Obviously, physical education, I'm obviously very passionate about, and I believe it has a great part in, keep lowering anxiety, and keeping your blood sugar count low, and just controlling weight and all these different things. But it's more than just learning how to do stuff. It's more about the lessons you can learn doing, and becoming someone of note and someone of influence through kicking a soccer ball, or through hitting a baseball, whatever it is. And so that's why, we want to teach them, solid humanistic skills through our program. And again, I'm real fortunate, and we've someone must have been noticing, because in 2019 I was named the San Diego Elementary PE Teacher of the Year in the county of San Diego. Last year,
Congratulations.
2020, thank you. And then last year I was named the 2020 California State Elementary PE Teacher of the Year. And again, and I guarantee it has to do with the stuff that we're teaching them. That's not, I mean, obviously we're teaching standardized physical education or California requirements. We have to teach them how to do this and that and the other, but it's more of the stuff that we can motivate them to be better people, and to be kind, and to be thoughtful, and to worry about, the members on the team. And one of the proudest things is, I get observed by college, teachers, and they bring their classes to watch our classes do stuff. And that we have a few, very few rules, but one of them is, we are we're so in tune with what are the needs of our teammates. So we were doing I can't remember what the lesson was. We were doing a lesson. We were running around the blacktop, and all the college students and the professor were watching, and this little boy, trips and falls and absolutely, skins up his whole body. I mean, he's bleeding and he's crying. And what normally happens in a class, if someone falls, that people laugh, right? They laugh at him, they laugh at people, and what does that do? That makes them not want to take risks. That makes them not want to go for it. They're going to be more careful. They're not going to be uninhibited in when they go for something. But what happens? No one laughs. I had 7 or 8 kids. This is not rehearsed. I mean, I didn't say, "Hey, go fall down and make me look good." The kid fell, and there were 7 or 8 kids ran over, helped him up. Volunteers to walk him to the nurse, and that's when I knew that the program we were running was a good thing, and that it should, and that I was on the right track. Again, it's not about, and again, our students still don't know that award was for me, because the way I've always put it is that you are the best students, PE students, elementary PE students in the county of San Diego. You got this award. You are the best elementary PE students in the state of California. You earned this. This is what you did, right? It's not about me. It's about them. Yeah, I'm the one. I got plaques galore, and it's all great and stuff. But I didn't get into teaching to win awards. I got into teaching to have something to do with tomorrow's leaders, and to make sure that they have a fighting chance to be outstanding human beings that want to work hard. They want to achieve academically. Some of these kids, again, it's a very low socioeconomic area, and most of these kids, if they go to college, they're the first ones to go to even graduate high school, let alone go on to college. And so we have a message that we will go to college, we will succeed. This is our promise. This is our creed. That's our school, motto, right? This is what we do. We want them to go to college, and we want them to get better test scores. We want them to persevere and go through the hard stuff. And it's not about what we do, it's about who we become.
Yeah, that's such a great thing, because especially for these young kids, I mean, you're just a guy teaching them, you're just one guy teaching them PE. They're the people who are going to be the future of this country. Like, you're past the point. I mean, you're not past the point, but you're much farther ahead of them. They're the ones who 20 years from now could be the people to create the next Facebook, or go be the next professional athletes, the next Michael Jordan. They're the ones who are going to do it, not you. So that's really that special thing for this award, to really emphasize just how, I mean, the story you told where they're, instead of laughing at the kid who fell on the floor, they all volunteer to help him. Like, that's an inspiration. That's what I would want to do, or that's what I would hope I do. Like, who knows if I really would. You got to be in that situation yourself to really say it. I would like to say I am, but that's just such a valuable thing to be instilling in these kids at that age, because that's going to take them so much farther in life than, I mean, any of the, and like anything I was taught in school. I mean, I wasn't really taught any of that in school. So it's just super nice to hear that that is happening. And I mean, the fact that you're getting that award means that not other schools are not doing this as well as you are. So, like, hopefully one day, like, I know this is kind of not the best thing to say for you, especially, but hopefully one day you're knocking that award and another PE teacher comes up and gets it instead, because that means there's more people taking that stance and making that effort to really put that in their kids.
Well, and again, and it's a culture. I mean, it's I'm about culture. I mean, you know this better than anybody. It's the culture of where you are, and the standards you set, and the level of feedback that you're able to give, both give and take, between staff members, and between teacher and student, between worker and co-worker, boss and direct reporters. I mean, it's all the same. I mean, you want to be part of a culture and a team that's bigger than you, that can do great things, because again, we will go further than I or me will go. We have to do stuff together, and it's so much more fulfilling for me when a bunch of us achieve something. And it drives me more than any individual awards or personal glory or any of that stuff. I mean, it's great. We all have egos that need to be massaged and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you're good with servant leadership, you're in it for and you're good with kids, and you're here to inspire people and not to confine them, and pigeonhole them into certain things. I mean, you're doing your job when you are an educator, or someone that provides inspiration to others. And I just think it's not it's a no-brainer. I'm very fortunate that in all the different jobs that I do, I'm here to improve children. I'm here to do young people, young men, young women, empower them to go for it, and not to be afraid of failure. We're all going to fail, but as long as you don't fail the same way twice, there's no such thing as failure. You might be unsuccessful, right? But as long as you're prepared and you go for it, you can never fail. Failure is not being ready. Failure is not being present. Failure is not participating to the level that you should be participating. If it's worth doing, it's worth going for it and doing your best. But I know a lot of people where they're afraid to fail, so if they just don't go for it, then when they fail, they can say, well, I wasn't trying anyway. And so because they don't want to be caught failing. Well, guess what? People that go for it, they're going to fail. I mean, Bill Gates, I'm sure failed in some businesses first. I'm sure Elon Musk did too. I mean, Jeff Bezos. I mean, these guys, they're trendsetters. They've created things that we all use on a daily basis. Yet they probably had some failures where they lost a lot of money. They lost money for investors, and then they learned how to not do it. Right? I think was it Thomas Jefferson that said, how long did it take you to invent the light bulb? He goes, well, first I know like 10,000 ways how to not to make the light bulb. Right? He had to fail all those times to finally get it. And he didn't quit.
Yeah, and I think
So
it's great that you bring up Elon Musk there, because I think it was around 2008, 2009, he was broke, living on friends' couches, borrowing rent, watching as I think he for SpaceX, his fourth launch was the successful one, but he was living on friends' couches watching his third launch blow up. And he knew that if he was going to succeed in this in any way, he had to throw everything he had. I mean, he started with 150 million. He went down to zero before his first success in either company. That's Tesla too included. He was almost on the verge of making nothing. And now look, I think he's worth what, like 150 billion? Like,
I mean, yeah, and believe me, making money is not what drives people like this.
oh, no
You
way.
know, they're driven by setting a goal and achieving that goal, and then once they slay that goal, they set another one, and they're always they're always upgrading themselves and bettering themselves to get to a higher level. I personally am not motivated by money, because no one that motivated by money goes into teaching in the public school system for sure, but it's like, it's I want it on my tombstone. I want it to read, he was a great husband, father, nephew, cousin, teacher, mentor, instructor, coach, blah blah blah, and he had the respect of his peers. I mean, that's really all that's in it for me. And it's just, if we can build something together, and we can, and you're willing to match my effort and my preparation, I want to be your partner, because I want to see where we can go and what we can do.
Yeah, so I think this is actually a great pivoting point, because the whole purpose of the show is kind of the journey. So, you kind of mentioned briefly that you kind of started this whole thing out when you were 17, right? The whole
Yeah, I mean,
the
yes. I mean, I didn't
strength.
mean to go into this, but I was doing it, and I was, I took my first dollar as a trainer when I was 17.
So how did you kind of get into that? Why did you decide to take that path instead of, a more traditional path?
Well, I mean, I was still in high school, and um, you know, I I was in weight training class, and I wasn't even the strongest guy, but I knew that, weights were the way that, for me, it gave me confidence. I was a martial arts guy, and it made me faster. It made me be able to punch harder and break more boards and stuff. And so it was really through martial arts. But I just knew that weights were the way. And back then in the late 70s, early 80s, weight training was kind of taboo. It's like, I was mainly a baseball guy, and it makes you muscle bound. You can't swing the bat. You're all stiff, and so. But I knew there's no way that this is a bad. I mean, I knew I needed to lift the right way, but and then those were things and that I was a kinesiology major at UCLA, and so I was very intrigued by how the body worked, and I wanted to understand, because I knew my theories that if you get stronger, you're going to be better. You're going to be less injury prone. You're going to be able to perform at a higher level. And when you go up against someone who's weaker, you're probably going to beat them, even if they're better than you, just because you can deal with more punishment, and you can dish out more punishment, and you can break them down with your mind and your body, even if they're way better than you, athletically. And it turns out that's kind of the way it is. And so it's um I went to UCLA, and I got that major, and I got a job at a health club, and I, as a trainer, I was probably making, whatever it was, like, $12 an hour, 15, but whatever it was not a lot of money. And but I was doing what I love, and so it's when you're a servant leader mentality, if you can get paid to help people, I mean, for me, that was the whole thing, and everything I do, it has to do with helping people be better, whether it's my elementary school kids, or if it's in my strength training business, if it's martial arts, or I do love doing play-by-play basketball, because I love the game, and I love being able to highlight the players and say their names, and and watch, see the parents clap for their kids. And everything I do, I try to send a message of, listen, with hard work, you can get this kind of public adulation. And kids need that. Kids self-esteem and stuff, it's built during these kind of elementary, middle, high school years, where they're figuring out how they can take the failures and turn those into victories later on. I try to tell them, you are not successful today, but that's okay. The lesson you learn today is going to help you not make that same mistake later. And then you'll make another mistake, and pretty soon you've made all the serious mistakes, and now they'll just be little ones. And then you just eliminate them. And again, you can't be afraid to fail. You have to always be willing to push the envelope. And again, if your motivation is pure, which to me is empower the kids, make sure that they feel good about themselves, make sure that you don't blow sunshine up their butt for no reason. They have to earn things. But and you don't make it, you make the journey hard, right? The journey should be filled with obstacles and adversities and things like that, because when a kid gets knocked down, you teach him how to get up. And then when he gets knocked down harder, you teach him how to get up. And And when she fails the next time, you help her get up. And it doesn't matter. You're just trying to, failure breeds success if you learn from, if you're prepared to deal with the feelings and the lessons that go along with it. I for sure learn more by losing than winning. I for sure do. I can reflect on my martial arts career where I think until I was a red belt, which is right before black belt, I lost every match. I didn't get one medal, one trophy, nothing. And then, that's like, black belt's 4 years. So I was a red belt. So I trained 3 years and just got smoked in every tournament. I mean, I go, I'm not good. But, my dad was the one, he was 5'5", 135 pounds, little guy. And he said, why are you doing this? Are you doing this to win medals? I go, no, I'm doing this to learn self-defense and to make my body stronger and to make my mind stronger. He goes, well, guess what? Those things are working. I'm your father. I can tell, you're not as soft as you used to be. You don't complain as much. This is working. Hang in there. All the medals and all the glory that's going to come if you stay with the process. So I'm a big process over outcome guy because of my dad, where the process is more important. Okay, I mean, you know that for me, from our slide deck. I mean, that's part of it. The process, the way you do things is more important than the winning at the end. I mean, yeah, I like to win, but I'm willing to lose a bunch in order to build those foundational principles of, work, be prepared, and whatnot. And so it's so important that we keep those things in mind.
Yeah, and just kind of adding on to that, the process, wow, that's 99.99% of the time you're alive. You're not that moment, like I've been in positions where we've won the gold medal at a tournament, like that's 10 minutes of the entire 10 game tournament. It's nothing. And then what? You get to post a picture of it online. Your friends can comment on it, but that really matter in the long run? Like I don't even look back at those pictures anymore. I don't Doesn't mean anything to me. Like, but the actual games where we're fighting as a team, like those are the moments I remember where like me and my friend are passing the ball back and forth trying to find an angle. And I'm just as excited if, like, looking back, maybe back in that time I would want to be the one to score, but like looking back, I'm just as excited watching my friend get a nice goal as I am if I get a nice goal. So it's all about that. Like, and that's the whole point of it. Like, you find the process much more and then adding on to that again, the tournament is just like 10 hours, but then we're practicing 3 hours a day every day of the week. So
for months in advance.
Exactly. So almost none of it is the outcome. Basically
Well, there's a
nothing.
lot of people that don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, well, I won this tournament, I'm the man. Like I don't, like, I can stop working. Where, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants, once they win, all that means is, okay, I've won this ring, now it's on to the next, right? They give themselves a few weeks to recover, they kind of, enjoy the time, go eat what they want, go, sleep in a little bit, hang out with your kids. But, then guess what? It's now ring season again. And you have to revamp, re-educate, reformulate, and do your year plan again, right? Because you can only be peaked for 3 months out of a year. You don't peak for 9 months out of the year. You peak for 3 months. You want that 3 months to be, toward the end. So you're improving, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're practicing. And then you want to peak right around when the championships are, because that's when it matters. And same
Yeah.
thing in life and whatever job you have. And, you want to make sure that you're doing your work and your work ethic is primo. And then guess what? If you're not successful, it's just because it wasn't your time, and that just means that, and your time will come. I mean, I can't tell you how many athletes I have. They go, Trent, when do I win? I go, when it's time. You got to keep working, right? You got to keep working. You got to, and you have to sacrifice, right? If you're going to every party and going going out to dinner all the time and hanging out with every friend you have, you're not sacrificing anything. I think that, you have to give up some things to get other things. So, the priorities are very, very important.
Yeah, but even on those aspects where your time has to come, like there's with water polo, there's the age group, which is 10 and unders through 18 and unders. And I was always on like one of the top 5 teams in the country, and we never won a medal. So I was every single year going into our junior Olympics, which is the final term of the year. It's what you train for the entire year. It's the whole purpose of water polo, basically. Every year looking into it, I was like thinking, okay, I have 4 more years to win this medal. It's gonna come, and it never happened. 16 unders, my team choked. 17, when we were 17, my team choked. And then finally we get to our last year when we're 18. We're in the quarterfinals game. I think we're up by like 3 points, and the other team came back and beat us. And I was like, that's not what's supposed to happen. I was supposed to win this year. This is my last year. And at that time, I mean, I was really devastated. Like I thought we were gonna win. I worked harder than anyone else for this. I wanted it, but it didn't happen. And it was a shock for me at the time. But looking back, like those lessons were what led me to where I am now, where now I'm working with you at Munchkin Labs, and I'm working at this podcast. Like those are the things that led me to do what I'm doing now, and to work once again to that success. So it's not anything immediate in any way. It's a lifelong journey, and maybe my success won't come till I'm 50 years old. Hopefully not, but you never know. You can't predict those things, but the lessons you learn along the way, like what I said before with what my coach told me and how that stuck with me all these years, those are the things that are going to make the difference in the long run. And those are the things that are going to push you past that point into where you need to be. But it only comes if you are willing to put in that time and if you have the patience to see it through.
I agree with you. You're starting to get a little glitchy.
Oh, yeah. I think that might be a good place to end it then. It looks like my connection is not the best. So, do you want to then say your social media? I'll put it all into the description, kind of your Suzuki training and all that. I'll put that in the description, but
Sure,
if you want to just say it
sure.
on live.
Yeah, it's just basically, my Instagram and my Twitter, they're all the same. It's just Trent Suzuki, at Trent Suzuki, TrentSuzuki. Happy to answer any questions that people might have, and I appreciate the opportunity. Ty, thank you very much.
Yeah, great. It was a pleasure having you on the show, Trent. I'll talk to you soon.